Let me ask you a question. Have you ever stood in front of someone, feeling love so loud in your chest, but their silence was louder? Have you ever loved someone who ran when you got too close, who pulled back just when things started feeling real? What if I told you they didn't run because they didn't care? They ran because they did. Today, I'm going to uncover the hidden behaviors, the coded signals of someone with avoidant attachment who is secretly, deeply falling in love with you, but has no idea how to say it. Avoidants don't pull away when they're bored or uninterested. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They tend to create distance when the feelings get too strong, too fast, too intense. For most people, intimacy feels warm and secure. But for an avoidantly attached person, intimacy can feel like a threat, not because the other person is unsafe, but because closeness triggers old, unresolved fears. So just when things begin to go well, when the relationship deepens, when you begin to feel safe with them, when they start to trust you more, that's when the avoidance starts to shut down emotionally or physically withdraw. This confuses the hell out of most partners. One day you're talking every night, laughing, maybe even opening up emotionally. Then suddenly they seem colder, more distracted. The energy shifts. You wonder, did I do something wrong? And in their silence, your heart starts filling in the blanks. But here's the truth. When avoidants feel their emotional defenses cracking, their instinct isn't to lean in, it's to run. It's not because you made them uncomfortable. It's because being that emotionally open is uncomfortable to them by default. It activates deeply buried memories, maybe of being abandoned when they were vulnerable, maybe of being shamed for needing someone, or even punished for trusting too soon. So the moment they feel the connection becoming too powerful, too emotionally immersive, they pull back to regain control. It's like a survival mechanism. They're not rejecting you. They're trying to protect themselves from an emotion they were never taught to feel safely. And oddly enough, this is one of the most misunderstood signs that they actually do love you. Because no one distances themselves from what doesn't matter. They're running not from you, but from the intensity you bring out in them. That closeness stirs something old and raw inside them, and instead of leaning into it, they go cold. It feels safer to disconnect than to fall deeper. This is the moment where most relationships start to fracture because the other person interprets the avoidance distance as indifference. But if you understand this pattern, you realize their retreat is not about losing love, it's about fearing it. You didn't lose them. They just lost their emotional footing, and they are trying to find it again quietly behind closed doors. Avoidantly attached individuals often struggle to express their emotions directly, especially when it comes to love. They're not the type to say, "I miss you" or "I need you" with ease. Vulnerability feels unsafe, so instead of speaking their feelings, they try to do something with them. This is where their love language often shows up, not in romantic confessions or dramatic gestures, but in small, practical, often overlooked acts of service. You might not hear "I love you" from them often or at all, but they'll make sure your tire is fixed. They'll notice when you've had a long day and silently hand you a cup of coffee. They'll send you a helpful article they saw online that made them think of something you once said, even if they don't comment on it directly. Their version of "I care about you" sounds like "don't forget your coat" or "did you eat?" Not because they don't feel deeply, but because those are the safest forms of expression they can manage. These gestures are often subtle. So subtle, in fact, that you might miss them if you're waiting for overt affection or sweet words. But if you look closely, these practical behaviors are their emotional signals. It's how they keep a thread of connection going without having to expose themselves emotionally. They might offer to fix something for you, run errands you didn't ask for, or show up at your door unannounced with something you casually mentioned needing weeks ago. These aren't random acts, they are intentional signs of care, masked by functionality. You may even notice that the more emotionally vulnerable the relationship becomes, the more these small actions increase. It's their version of keeping one foot in the connection while their fear urges them to back away. They do what's safe for them, and what's safe is being useful, dependable, present in tangible but non-emotional ways. For them, doing something helpful feels far less risky than saying "I'm falling for you" out loud. When avoidants love, they don't always do it the way we expect. They won't always hold your face and say what you long to hear. But they'll check the oil in your car. They'll remind you to take your medicine. They'll do what they can with what feels safe and to them. Showing up through action is often the truest, most courageous expression of love they know. Avoidants are often misunderstood as emotionally disconnected or uninterested, but the truth is far more complex. Just because they don't say much doesn't mean they're not feeling a lot. In fact, avoidantly attached people tend to be hyperobs. They may not participate openly in emotional exchanges, but they're constantly watching, noticing, and absorbing details. It's their way of staying connected while still maintaining a sense of emotional control. They won't always ask, "How are you really feeling?" but they'll remember how you looked the last time you were upset. They won't gush over how much they care, but they'll pick up on the shift in your tone when something's off. You'll notice that they seem to know when to back off, or when to give you space, not because they're guessing, but because they've been watching, quietly and carefully. Every small shift in your mood, every subtle change in your expression, they register it. It's easy to think they're emotionally checked out because they don't express themselves the way someone with secure or anxious attachment might. But avoidants are information gatherers. Observation is their comfort zone. When emotions run high, they often retreat into a state of quiet analysis rather than emotional response. So when they're sitting silently, seemingly disengaged, what they're often doing is tracking, trying to understand you, trying to stay close without risking exposure. If they bring up something you mentioned in passing weeks ago, a book, a memory, a favorite meal, it's not a coincidence. It's proof they were listening even when they didn't respond the way you hoped. Their memory isn't just sharp, it's selective. They remember the things that matter to you because they care, even if they can't always show it through warmth or affection. Their watching is cautious. They're trying to figure out if they're safe to open up. They're studying how you handle their silence, their retreats, their hesitation. They're looking to see whether your love will chase them down or shame them for not being more emotionally available. And if they keep watching, if they stay around and keep noticing those little details, it's a sign they haven't emotionally checked out. They're just processing love in the only way they know how. Carefully, quietly, and from a distance that feels safe. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, revealing their flaws isn't just difficult, it's terrifying. Vulnerability doesn't feel like connection to them. It feels like danger. Most avoidants have been shaped by early experiences where being open or emotionally exposed didn't lead to safety, comfort, or support. Instead, it led to judgment, abandonment, or even punishment. So as adults, they instinctively learn to hide their emotional wounds, flaws, and insecurities behind a wall of independence, detachment, and control. But real love has a way of pressing on those hidden places. When an avoidant starts to truly care for you, they face a quiet war inside themselves. On one hand, they feel drawn to connect with you more deeply. On the other, every step toward closeness threatens to unravel the armor they've spent years building. Yet, if they're starting to let you see the parts of themselves they usually keep hidden, if they share a failure, admit to a mistake, or even reveal a painful part of their past, that's a sign they trust you more than they trust most people. Avoidants rarely, if ever, ask for help. They don't want to appear weak. They believe that needing someone opens the door to being hurt, judged, or abandoned. But if they allow themselves to be vulnerable with you, even briefly, it means something powerful is happening beneath the surface. They're not just comfortable with you, they're starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, you won't use their vulnerability against them. And here's the thing, they won't make a big production out of it. They might casually mention something deeply personal, as if it's no big deal. But that's the moment you have to pause and recognize the weight of what they've just offered. Because for them, revealing even a small flaw isn't just sharing, it's risking everything. It's their way of testing the waters. They're silently asking, can you love this part of me too? Many people miss these moments because they're not dramatic or emotionally charged. But for an avoidant, showing you the imperfect parts of themselves is one of the deepest signs of love they can offer. They may never say, "I trust you with my heart," but when they let you see the side of them they usually hide, that is exactly what they're doing. They are trusting you with who they really are underneath the walls. Avoidants often don't express love through words, and "I love you" may be one of the hardest sentences for them to say. It's not because they don't feel it, it's because saying it opens the door to vulnerability, expectation, and the possibility of being hurt. Instead of confessing love, avoidants often try to earn it. They start performing. They want to become someone worthy of being chosen, not necessarily by revealing their emotions, but by proving their value through effort, improvement, or quiet devotion. This effort is rarely loud or obvious. It doesn't look like big romantic gestures or heartfelt emotional declarations. It looks like striving to be better, striving to appear competent, striving to do something for you. Whether it's working harder at their job, stepping up their responsibilities, or simply trying to be more available in their own limited way, they are showing love by attempting to become someone who deserves love in return. At the core of many avoidants is a belief that they are not enough, that if they simply showed up as their unguarded, raw self, they would be rejected. So rather than risk that exposure, they try to perform a role. They want to be seen as capable, reliable, impressive, not needy, not dependent, not too emotional. But underneath that controlled exterior is someone deeply afraid of not being accepted as they are. So instead of letting themselves be seen, they offer value, they fix problems, they get things done, they try to become indispensable. This isn't manipulation, it's survival. It's how they've learned to connect. They won't sit across from you and pour out their heart, but they will try to win your heart in the only way they feel safe doing it, through action, consistency, and a silent kind of devotion that hopes you'll notice, without them ever having to say the words. Sometimes you'll find them quietly stepping up when you're overwhelmed without being asked. Sometimes they'll do something that clearly costs them emotional energy, but they won't explain why. That's not indifference. That's their way of loving you, of trying to earn a space in your world, not through emotional exposure, but through proving their worth. For them, love isn't spoken. It's demonstrated silently, but with great intensity. Love is not always loud. It's not always romantic, poetic, or wrapped in perfect words. Sometimes love is silent. Sometimes it hides behind distance, behind overthinking, behind someone who seems cold on the outside, but is battling a storm within. When you're dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, love doesn't arrive the way you expect. It shows up in disguise. It hides in hesitation, in the moments they pull back just when you get close. And if you don't understand this dynamic, it can leave you feeling unwanted, unimportant, even invisible. But their distance isn't proof of a lack of love, it's a sign of how much it scares them. An avoidant who loves you will rarely tell you outright, but they'll try to show you, not through grand emotional displays, but through quiet actions. They'll fix something that's broken, not because they care about the thing, but because they care about you. They'll remember tiny details from conversations you thought they weren't even listening to. They'll give you space when they sense you're overwhelmed. And in their own, often awkward way, they'll try to protect you, provide for you, and prove themselves to you, all without ever needing to say, "I love you." Because for them, doing love feels safer than saying it. The deeper their feelings grow, the more likely they are to retreat, not to hurt you, but to shield themselves from being hurt. And yet, even in their withdrawal, they're watching you. They're studying how you respond to their distance. They're trying to figure out if your love is strong enough to endure the parts of them that don't know how to connect. And if they start letting you see their flaws, their fears, their failures, that's not weakness. That's their version of intimacy. That's the moment they stop performing and start trusting. And that trust is sacred. It's fragile. It's rare. So if you've ever found yourself loving someone who pushes you away just when you want to be closest, look again. Look beyond the silence, the distance, the walls. Love doesn't always sound like "I love you." Sometimes it sounds like drive safe. Sometimes it looks like fixing your door, remembering your favorite snack, or working harder because you inspire them to be more. When an avoidant loves you, it's rarely spoken, but if you know what to look for, you'll see it in everything they do. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you stayed till the end, know this. You're not just learning about love, you're healing, growing, and becoming the kind of person who can love deeply and be loved in return. If this message spoke to your heart, let me know in the comments. Your voice matters here, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. So many of us are learning to decode love in its most silent forms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss another deep dive into love, psychology, and healing. Until next time, be kind to your heart, be patient with others, and trust the love that doesn't always know how to speak, but shows up anyway. Take care, and goodbye for now.